Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth lecture of the NPTEL course on simulation of modern power systems. In this discussion, we will continue our discussion on the first module, power flow analysis, where we had started or discussed about the bus admittance matrix evaluation. And specifically in this discussion, we will extend that evaluation of bus admittance matrix to consider the effect of mutually coupled impedances and transformer taps when they are at their off nominal positions. The corresponding evaluation of bus admittance matrix in generic way has been explained in the previous discussion. So the question that comes to all our minds is, why does this coupling exist? Why should this mutual coupling exist at all? It's all which is what Faraday explained through his concept of electromagnetic induction, which is the basis of functioning of transformers and all rotating machines. It is more dominant in transformers, but rotating machines also have this electromagnetic induction. What is being shown here is a very typical example of a soft iron bar based solenoid, across which so this block is a soft iron bar, and around this iron bar there is an electrical conductor wound, and this electrical conductor is carrying current at some frequency. It's the AC current, and every half cycle, depending on whether it's a 50 hertz current or 60 hertz current, for 50 hertz it's 20 millisecond, a very convenient number for the electrical engineers to choose 50 hertz, because millisecond was the convenient time period, compared to 60 hertz where the time period is 16.667 milliseconds for the 60 hertz system. So because of the inconvenience in termination of time period, 50 hertz was chosen for all countries except for US and Canada. So depending on what frequency alternating current is being flowing, by Ampere's rule or by electromagnetic induction, the lines that are glowing here, they are basically magnetic flux lines. And if we have another such solenoid present in close vicinity to the actual present soft iron bar across which current is flowing, then this solenoid will also show current detection. This meter which is being recorded here or shown here can be a ammeter or a galvanometer, which for sure, as long as the current is deflecting, the needle is deflecting different from zero, it indicates that because of this AC current there is electromagnetic flux lines, which when another soft iron core comes into presence, it gets electromagnetically induced, and hence current flows into the vicinity conductor or vicinity solenoid. That's how the coupling effect comes into existence. There can be dedicated discussion on how the mutual coupling can be modeled, what mathematics goes behind it, what theory goes behind it. I will avoid those discussions because we have to focus on other application related parts. So that's the reason why mutual inductance can exist between transmission lines also, and in fact mutual capacitance can also exist between transmission lines due to electrostatic induction. Often the mutual coupling is more due to the induction effect because operating voltages are very high, and by choosing proper right of way, the electrostatic induction effect is minimized, and that's where mutual capacitance presence is not so dominant in power networks. So to understand how mutual coupling can be considered in Y-bus evaluation, we choose two transmission lines present between buses M, N, and second line between P and Q. These are the bus numbers, same as the bus numbers that we saw in the previous discussion, 1 to N. And for sake of understanding, we are also ignoring the presence of any half line charging shunt which is present for these individual nominal pi models of lines between Mn and Pq. The effect of, if any, there is a half line charging shunt present in pi model of line Mn and Pq, it would be automatically taken care of or considered at a later stage. So have patience, we'll come back to this part towards the end of this discussion. For time being, the mutual coupling is present only between the series impedances. ZA and ZB are those series impedances of line, pi model line Mn and PQ. And the mutual coupling value is Zm. We also have a way of denoting the orientation of mutual coupling. So, dot polarities, they essentially infer that if the currents are both entering into these dots, where the dot is one of the terminals of the series impedance ZA and ZB, and if we apply KVL, then the corresponding voltage drop that we would see because of IAZA or IBZM because of mutual coupling on this overall impedance ZA, it would be an additive effect. If the currents tend to enter in one dot and leave out the other dot, the corresponding voltage polarities are reversed, and that's how the dot marking convention works. So, since currents here are being assumed to be entering the dots which are marked as IA and IB, entering the dots of ZA and ZB. So, by KVL, we can write the voltage drop across these two lines as Vm minus Vn and Vp minus Vp, which are in terms of IA, IB and ZA, ZB being the self impedances, Zm being the mutual impedance. If we now expand things a bit, because essentially we are trying to evaluate the overall bus admittance matrix evaluation, trying to consider the effect of mutual coupling. So, we cannot just retain or focus only on the currents. Remember, bus admittance matrix is all about relationship between bus injection currents and the relationship between bus voltages. As of now, on the left hand side we have bus voltages, which is okay, but on the right hand side we have IA, IB, which are line currents. We have to represent these IA, IB in terms of bus currents, which are marked as IN, IM, IP and IQ. So, if we just look at this or focus on this portion of the circuit, it is very clear that the line currents can be written in terms of the bus currents or vice versa, and hence we can rewrite this 2 cross sort of two equations in terms of bus currents IM to IQ and the corresponding IB, IA, IB currents are present over here. So, we define this A matrix which transforms the bus currents and line currents, branch currents interactively, and if we substitute IA, IB, which is inverse of Z matrix present over here and Vm minus Vn, Vp, Vq part, and multiply this term on both sides by A transpose, then essentially we have here as Im, In, Ip, Iq, which are the bus currents. And that is essentially what is mentioned over. I think it has not been shown, but it will be shown in the later part. So, we will come to that part. So, question comes is this invertibility or factorization possible? Yes, under a condition where ZA, ZB is not equal to Zm square. In fact, Zm has an upper limit usually of being less than ZA, ZB for a physical realizable mutual impedance circuit. Equality does not happen often, it is a very, very low value, but if it is equal to 0, the corresponding bus admittance matrix evaluation or impedance matrix evaluation cannot be done. So, assuming that this is true or these are not equal to each other, so this equation is well defined, and we can try to find the corresponding factors of this matrix 2 cross 2 matrix, where if we are talking about Z as impedance, the corresponding factors would be called as admittances. We call them as YMN, YMN PQ, YMN PQ and YPQ. Why is that? YMN, YPQ terms why they are coming in? Numerically, you can always correlate or find this factor, and what you would see here is that the off diagonal terms, they are the same, and that is where this Y notation is different. The diagonal terms are different, and hence we have YMN and YPQ as their notations here. So, we can write IA, IB in terms of Y elements and Vm minus Vp, Vp and Vq. Also, the same A matrix that we saw for correlating branch currents and bus currents, the same A matrix can be used to rewrite this in terms of individual bus voltages. And now, if we sort of compile everything together, we multiply A transpose on both the sides, we would have bus currents on the left hand side, and on the right hand side you would have Vm, Vp, Vn, Vq currents. The corresponding Y matrix that would be evaluated is the overall bus admittance matrix that we are trying to find while considering the effect of mutually coupled impedances, which is nothing but this matrix shown over here. So, what would be the dimension of Y at the outset? Since here we have a 4 cross 1 vector, here also we have a 4 cross 1 vector. So, Y has to be a 4 cross 4 vector. Is that true? Let us see. What we saw here was A is a 2 cross 4 vector. If A is a 2 cross 4 vector, A transpose would be a 4 cross 2 vector. So, if we bring back those mathematical consistencies of multiplication of matrices, so A transpose is 4 cross 2, this is a 2 cross 2 matrix, and here we have a 2 cross 4 matrix. So, mathematically matrices can be multiplied, and hence we can get this 4 cross 4 matrix, which has been blown up and shown over here. Please take some time or spend some time in understanding how this Y matrix comes into this particular form. It will become very obvious if you multiply or sort of solve this 4 cross 2, 2 cross 2 and 2 cross 4 multiplication. There is an importance behind marking these row labels and column labels. The importance here is, why is the first label marked as M comma M? Let us see what is the first current that this Y bus is representing and what is the corresponding first voltage that is being represented by this element. So, the first element is essentially representing Im, the term Im sitting over here, in terms of Vm, which is the first voltage. Since these two voltage and currents refer to the same bus, and that is where we have M and M as the corresponding row and column labels. The second term is M comma N. Why? The second term is M comma N because the current, the first row pertains to current information. So, Im remains the same. The second column pertains to now voltage Vn, and hence we have label of M comma N. So, identifying these row and column labels goes a long way in sort of properly considering the effect of mutual coupling admittances in evaluation of this Y bus matrix. Now, having evaluated this Y bus matrix, which is a 4 cross 4 matrix for given two mutually coupled transmission lines in a given power network, how do we find the actual N cross N matrix for the given N bus network? What is done here is that whatever are the mutually coupled admittances or impedances present in the network, let us for time being ignore them at all. There is no presence of mutual coupled impedances in themselves. By ignoring or without considering the mutually coupled impedances or admittances, I mean that not just the mutually coupled impedance Zm is to be ignored, Za and Zb, which are the actual line impedances that we took or saw in the previous few slides, those also have to be ignored. By saying that only mutually coupled impedances we are just ignoring the presence of Zm, no, that does not suffice. Self impedances as well as mutual coupled impedances, all together they have to be ignored to completely consider the effect of mutual coupled impedances. So, we evaluate the overall Y bus the way it was discussed in the previous lecture, while ignoring all self impedances and their respective mutual impedances. So, we get a N cross N matrix. Now, for every such ignored mutually coupled set of impedance or admittance, we find the 4 cross 4 matrix, keeping in view that these row and column labels are uniquely and correctly marked. How do we do that? Or how do we sort of merge? So, here we got let us say N cross N matrix, here we are getting 4 cross 4 matrix for one mutually coupled impedance. I remember I mentioned in the previous slide that marking of row and column labels goes a long way in proper consideration of Y bus elements. So, if Y M comma N because of mutual coupling consideration is giving me this Y bus element, where do you think should this element be present in this Y bus that has been evaluated without considering the presence of mutually coupled impedance? That is where the implication of superimposition comes in. We superimpose this n cross n and 4 cross 4 matrix element wise. If a Y bus 4 cross 4 is m comma n, it should also be present in the m comma n position at the actual n cross n Y bus network. That is how the superposition of the labels rows and columns comes in. It may happen that one of these buses M and PQ could be a reference node. So what do you think about the presence of reference node in Y bus admittance matrix? There is no row and column ever present in Y bus for the reference node. And if at all M and PQ happen to be a reference node, when can that happen? Let me give you an example. Suppose mathematically I have a transmission line between bus M and N whose series impedance ZA is mutually coupled to the half line charging susceptance or capacitance. I know it's a very bad example, but numerically it could be possible, is mutually coupled with the capacitance present at bus P with a mutual coupling of Zm. So in this case that we saw, Q essentially becomes a reference node. So theoretically speaking, yes, it is possible. And what do we do in that case? Because for reference buses, we never have any row or column present in the bus admittance matrix. So if it is not present, we completely ignore the corresponding row and column pertaining to reference bus in the 4 cross 4 add-on matrix that we have evaluated while considering the effect of mutually coupled impedance. And then we do the superimposition as it is supposed to be done, as discussed in the previous slide. It may also happen that among these 4 buses, 2 or 3 of the buses are common. So let's say if M is same as Q, which means that, which is the more likely case, that there is a bus M from which 2 lines are propagating and connecting bus N and connecting bus P, and these 2 impedances ZB, ZA are mutually coupled through impedance Zm. So in this case, M becomes same as Q. Then what is to be done? How do you do it? We carry on the evaluation of the bus admittance matrix evaluation the way it is to be done for M, N, P and Q. We don't worry much about, okay, there is no Q. Assume that Q exists, but it is same as M. We find out the corresponding 4 cross 4 add-on matrix. And important part here is that instead of Q column and Q label coming in, since M and PQ are the same buses, the corresponding Q label is replaced by M. And what you would see here is that this can be uniquely compressed as a 3 cross 3 matrix, where row labels are M and P, column labels are M and P. And how does this combination or labeling happens? We simply add the elements with common labels. So YMN is the first element in MM. There is also another element Y minus YMU in MM. Then we have another minus YMU, and then we have YPM. We add all these admittances together and simply consider their corresponding 3 cross 3 combination. When we have this 3 cross 3 Y bus matrix with these as our new row and column labels, the corresponding superimposition process remains the same. Moving on to the consideration of transformer taps in bus admittance matrix. As I mentioned, transformers are used for voltage regulation effect as well as for phase shifting effect, which can also result in regulation of real and reactive power flow through a transmission network under different operating conditions. And that's the reason why if we have to model both voltage regulators and phase shifters through a common transformer model, the corresponding transformer tap is often called to be a complex number. Complex number will usually have some magnitude with some phase angle associated with it with respect to some reference obviously. If the complex number has 0 as the phase difference, that means this magnitude is pertaining specifically to only voltage regulators. If we have the case where the phase is not 0, then this transformer is particularly referring to the case of a phase shifter. So we can have both these transformers present, although majority of cases you would find the presence of voltage regulators. Phase shifters are rarely present. But we can't have different models or ways of considering these transformers effects. We have to have the same notion. So for the sake of understanding simplicity, we consider the tap to be a complex number. And we have also understood or seen that if the tap is at the nominal position, it behaves same as the transmission line. Nothing new needs to be done while evaluating the bus admittance matrix in the presence of transformers. Only when the transformer is at off nominal position, so that the real and reactive power flows can be regulated under different operating conditions, proper consideration has to be done for Y bus. So what do we do? Let us say we have a transformer which is present between node I or bus I and bus J, whose voltages are Vi and Vj with respect to some reference node. The transformer has a tap effect and also has a nonlinear or a lossy component represented by a series admittance called as Yt, which is effectively the overall primary and secondary side impedance, both the winding resistances and leakage reactances evaluated at the nominal position of tap. That means if A is the tap value, whatever was the value of A, usually it would be 1 per unit based on the per unit analysis definition. Whatever is the value of this overall effective high voltage or low voltage side series impedance marked by Yt, that represents the lossy component, and the remaining component which is left with just the tap part, where A can be different than 1 or a complex number, represents the ideal complex tap position. So what do we do, or how do we consider this effect? Although there is one question that you could think that, sir, if A itself can vary under off nominal position different from 1, how come Yt remains constant? Why it doesn't change? Again, as electrical engineers, we do trade-off analysis, and even if we were to evaluate Yt as Y primary plus Y secondary by A square or into A square, where A is the corresponding tap effect, any significant difference in A will only result in the change of Yt. Transformer taps, they have defined limited number of tap positions, and under this consideration, A doesn't change much from 1. If we have a transformer tap where A is perfectly 0, it's as good as there is no transformer at all. There is no physical transformer present at all. There is no step up or step down voltage going on. So A will typically be close to 1, and hence often this sort of detailed modeling can be avoided by assuming Yt to be constant. So if this is how the modeling happens, how do we model or find the corresponding Y bus? Simply we apply KCL and KVL. We assume that from bus I we have source current II, and from bus J we have injection current Ij. By applying KVL across node I and the fictitious node X, we can write source current II as Vi minus Vx into Yt. And since this component of the transformer represents the ideal portion where there is no loss, all loss that can happen, both real and reactive power, has been already incorporated here. So this is a perfect ideal voltage transformation which is happening, and hence the corresponding input power is same as the corresponding output power. There is a difference in sign here, because here we assume that if Vx and Ii are the corresponding input entities, on the other hand at the output side we have Vj and minus Ij as the output current. So that's how the negative sign is coming in. Why do we have this conjugate term coming in over here? I have briefly explained that in the initial discussion. I'll talk about it in length in the next lecture, so please have patience. So in terms of overall complex power, it's an ideal transformer, so input complex power is same as the output complex power, and Vx by Vj is also 1 by A as per this transformation ratio. So, from there I can find the ratios of voltages as well as the corresponding currents. Star here pertains to the conjugate operation of a complex number. So, if I try to find the injection currents Ij and Ii in terms of Vi, Vj, I have one equation here, I have another equation here, and then I also have Vx, Vj in terms of A. So, if I summarize or combine all of them, I will get an equation of this form, where I get a 2 cross 2 as my overall add-on bus admittance matrix because of consideration of transformer taps. So, the overall effect of considering transformer taps is we evaluate Y bus without considering transformer taps, then we find the corresponding 2 cross 2 add-on matrix as has been explained here, and then we do superimposition the way it was done for mutual coupled admittance matrix evaluation. In case there are several mutually coupled admittances and transformer taps, we ignore their presence completely in the first go and evaluate Y bus without any mutual coupling or transformer tap considered. Then for individual mutual coupled impedance or transformer tap, we find the respective 4 cross 4 or 2 cross 2 matrices, correspondingly label their rows and columns properly as per the bus numbers, and then we do the superimposition. I will end my discussion with a small example. What I have here is a 4 bus matrix or a 4 bus power network. Bus 3 and 4, they pertain to the transmission portion of the power network, whereas between bus 4 and 2 I have one transformer present over here and I have another transformer present over here. Since these transformers have their taps on the transmission network side, so it is imperative that I can assume bus 1 to be a low voltage bus, bus 2 could also be another low voltage bus, and bus 3 and 4 they are the high voltage buses because the tap positions are essentially amplifying the voltages at bus 3 and bus 4 compared to low voltage values at bus 1 and bus 2. So, what has been given is that these two lines 3 and 4, they are having two parallel circuits with series impedances present, all are in per unit value. The reactances are given on a common base, that is what pertains to the per unit numbers. The transformer taps are given, the corresponding internal reactance, leakage reactances are given. So, how do you find the corresponding Y bus? So, what do we do is, first of all, if I have a 4 bus network, my final Y bus should be a 4 cross 4 matrix, and when I try to find this 4 cross 4 matrix, in the first go I will completely ignore the presence of both these transformers. If I ignore their presence, it is as good as bus 1 and bus 2 are unconnected. So, their corresponding elements in Y bus will be all 0. Only bus 3 and 4 are as of now present, and then only elements pertaining to bus 3 and 4 will be non-zero because of these two series impedances that are present in parallel between them. So, if I consider only the presence of lines, I get this as my first 4 cross 4 matrix without taps considered at all. The taps have been given to be present near the high voltage side, and the corresponding transformer reactance is positioned near the low voltage bus. So, with respect to the discussion that we have had for transformer tap incorporation, we can assume this to be bus I, this to be bus J, and similarly for this transformer, this is bus I and this is bus J. We apply the logic of evaluating 2 cross 2 matrices for respective transformer taps. We have 1 3 as my row label. Similarly, I have 1 3 as my column label for the first transformer. Likewise, I have the 2 cross 2 matrix for the transformer tap present between buses 2 and 4. And having known these rows and column labels, now it is time to superimpose them on the initial 4 cross 4 matrix. If I do their corresponding inverses and do the superimposition, what I see here is 1 comma 1, it is only present over here. So, I add 0 and minus J80, I get the first element. If I see 3 comma 3, I have minus J9 sitting at the first 4x4 matrix. Then I also have another 3, 3, which is minus j 51.2. There is no other element pertaining to 3x3, so I add both of them, I get minus j 60, 2. That's how you can find all other corresponding elements. The next discussion will be on evaluation of different equations, nonlinear equations involved in power flow analysis, and how these equations can be solved based on the types of buses, whether they are PV buses, PQ buses, generator buses. We'll talk about all that in detail in the next lecture. Thank you.